the Nephilim. These giants, when Israel invades the land or spies out the land with Moses, they see that there are giants in the land. Now, my kind of perspective on this is that, try to explain this quickly, but it's got to take a few moments. Remember that I talked about Jonah preaching to Nineveh. There is a similarity in the worship styles and communication and the way the temples were laid out, all seem to interrelate. Except I think what happened is some people went after their own gods and started worshiping giants, started worshiping creatures that were not God to get things out of the whole relationship. This one talks about power. This one emanates strength and dominance. Anyway, people followed. Some followed God. Some of the Ninevites did, and some of them did not. And that's kind of typical, I think, of history. And what a lot of people do is they want to come in and make the differences great between this people group and that. They had a similar language. They were able to communicate. And we find that even as Jonah preaches to the city of Nineveh and successfully helps them to understand who God really is. And we find this going on throughout history. And the story of Gilgamesh contains a fascinating, to me at least, a little extra. It talks about this great world flood. In fact, you will discover, if you look pretty closely, there's about 200, probably more now, different people groups who speak of a flood. Some of those places, they don't even know how a flood would happen. They're just not in that kind of location. But they have this tradition of the flood. And then you read in Gilgamesh, they have a tradition there. And in fact, the description is kind of, how would I say it? The biblical description is of this great kind of Titanic type of boat, over 100 yards, maybe 150 yards long. The one in Gilgamesh has most of the similar creatures and the similar experience, but the date of the flood, or the length of the flood, is not quite as long, and some of the creatures that are interacting to the story are not the same creatures. It's obvious that it came from a common source. And I take the Bible as being accurate, where the story is told about the ark. There's stories like Gilgamesh that don't quite cut it as far as a practical history, where the ark, and I know a lot of people are just saying, well, it's just a local flood. It doesn't work well that way. We had a dramatic time in history where history was changed. Seems like most of the giants are gone, but still today, I remember as a young person, we can have giants much over 7 feet. Well, today there's somebody playing basketball that is just almost 8 feet. Makes Shaq look small. 7'2", I think he is. But we have giants still today. There's the capacity genetically for giants. And I think there's a lot of story behind all this, and it would just take too long. But we'll go into it at another venture when you might have interest and patience in just the topic of giants. We'll go to a lot of topics. In fact, I would really like you to mark this page, somehow get connected, because this is not a commercial endeavor. I run a nonprofit, AskOurPastor.com, and make a connection. Get involved. Write me your questions, because there's so much. And I'm just going to go mainly where the interests are. So if you want to know about some issue, you got to ask so that you can find out. Anyway, back to Gilgamesh. I'll say it again. Subscribe. Please subscribe for your good. Okay, back to Gilgamesh. This story of giants and conquering was part of the Assyrian history. And these kind of signs, propaganda, littered the cities, and it created a kind of a fear of the kings and the power. Let's go to another one. This one, I don't know if you can read the writing on this. This is of the city of Nineveh. They found it there. And this one is not a bull, but it's a lion. See the tail there, and lion's paws. A lot the same. And then over here is another kind of like bird-like creature, a bird-man. And you look closely, there's a little watch. It looks like a watch. It's not a watch, but and he's got his little overnight bag that he's carrying. Let's go to the next one. And there he is, a little closer. And this reminds me of Ezekiel a little bit. You've got these kind of creatures with wings. Ezekiel does it much better, but kind of an eagle face. And there he is. Look at the strong tendons. And I mean, you don't want to mess with this guy. He'll shove a pine cone in your eye. And if you look down a little lower, the pine cone doesn't work. He's a ninja creature. And that's not a watch. It's not even a sundial. But all these decorations have certain meanings, and it's been debated what the pine cone means. These flowers, there's a God name connected with this. I'm not going to even try and have you remember it. One of the amazing things from the valley, the general area, you'll discover is they have all these gods. And then you move to a new location where a new set of conquerors come along, and they keep the gods. They might change the names a little bit, but they keep the gods. And you can almost follow them step by step from new kingdom to new kingdom. And they're the power, the authority, the strength, the fear of the gods. And then there's these flowers. There's a whole story behind some of these flowers and what people think, what they think they mean. Looks like, whoop, go back. Looks like there's chainmail or something like that with this creature. Lots of little cute stuff going on. Not too girly, but the kind of creature that you ought to respect. And that's the Assyrians. And these gods carry out even maybe 1,000 years or so into the Roman times. And I mean, if you go to the Olympics today, you might even see the same things. It just, people keep after this stuff. And it fascinates, but it also intimidates. And that's part of the whole purpose of this. Back to these guys. One of the things that I think that's so amazing is the real history that God records. Real people, back to about 722, that's 700 years before Christ, all this was recorded. Now, I know that people lay claim to the land of Israel, but the Muslim world didn't even exist for another, 1,400 years. They think they're old. This history is very old. And this is really essentially represents Israel in its downfall. They go back to the land after the Babylonian captivity. There's all sorts of things that happen that are rough on the people. They're enslaved. They're divided. They're chopped. It's a fearsome history of slavery and brutality. And the only way you survive in this area is to be awfully tough. That's the only people who live. So I wanted to take you on a tour. Israel was there a long time ago. You can, in fact, I'm not going to take you too far because I run out of pictures and time on this video, but you can go back to the time of David, was even before the 722, it was about 1000 BC, the time of David. You can dig up stones, had David's name on it. They were there, and it's an amazing part of history. By the way, these guys right here might have been destroyed just recently. There's some of them that I know for certain were destroyed because the kind of I want to say this the right way, the Muslim sect, disapproves so much of history. You want to just have your own history, and you don't want to let any other people have a history. They destroyed much of this artwork, which I define murder and so on. It is the way this sect invaded the whole countryside, and they destroyed things left and right. I find that just horrible that they should destroy artwork. But history is an important thing because it gives us a tie to reality. Real things went on, real people were there, and it was a real world that was harsh and difficult, such as the history of Israel for thousands of years now. Such is the history of Christianity that has been a kind of thread running through these times. And we'll explore that more in detail. That is, if you follow, sign up, subscribe, whatever is necessary for the format that you're looking at, please do it for your benefit. There's amazing stuff that goes on, and I can only show it to you relatively slowly, one step at a time. For now, keep asking, AskOurPastor.com.